Okay, here we are back for our second match. It's quite late and I'm really tired, but I'm gonna do this anyway. I'm confident that I can still play badly. And it looks like we're up against Delver. We are up against Delver. I'm gonna use Deadweight to kill it, and that's because Disfigure isn't instant. So my opponent could have had days there, but I decided not to worry about it. Here I'm gonna use Chainer's Edict, of course. Get use out of it while I can. See if my opponent has days. They do not, which is pretty cool. There's their second land right on time. And I draw my third. I can. It's even like the perfect one. I'm just going to go Chittering Rats and force the issue here. If my opponent has a counter spell, so be it. Looks like they don't. So they're going to go Spellster Sprite. No. That's interesting. Delver is not a terrible matchup, but Delver is always just what Delver is. Meaning like, again, Delver just plays nothing but counter spells and draw spells and good efficient flyers. So it's really a matter of how many how many more spells can you resolve than them, I'm just going to attack here, and then I'm going to just return the swamp and play the Dimir Aqueduct. I'm not going to bother. I probably should have floated the swamp there. Nah, never mind. I am not going to bother with returning. With evoking Moldrifter, I don't need a. Ooh, that's pretty good. I don't need a. Whatchamacallit? A divination that badly. I'm just going to Chainer's Edict again. Might as well just use it while I can. That's usually what Chainer's Edict is. He uses Spellstutter Sprite. Okay. I'm going to use Disfigure here. Actually, I guess I kind of tapped wrong there. Which one do I want to use? I could just use Doomblade. The problem is that Doomblade kills Spire Golem where Disfigure doesn't, so I guess I'll just bite the bullet then. And I guess I'll kill the Spellstutter Sprite. Just in case of something. And we'll see what my opponent has to say about it. So it's not going to counter it, and they're still going to have to sack a dude, which is good. So we basically just 2 for 2'd. And I will pass the turn. So opponent has nothing. Another Moldrifter. Okay. I don't think I need to cast either of them. I think I can just sit here and try to Doomblade at the end of my turn, or attempt to Doomblade a Ninja of the Deep Hours, as I assume that's why my opponent threw out the Spellster Sprite. And if my opponent counters this Doomblade, I then possibly have a opportunity to go whatchamacallit? Moldrifter, because my opponent has shown to possibly not have days in their hand. I mean, most Delver decks play days, these days, so no pun intended. Okay. Alright, I'm going to get greedy here, and I'm going to evoke the Moldrifter and then Ghostly Flicker both it and the Chittering Rats to try and get as far ahead of my opponent as possible, because, again, they have shown to not have days in their hand. I guess they could have Force Spike, but just whatever happens. If they have Vapor Snag, at the very least, they'll still get punished because I'll get the Moldrifter back or the Chittering Rats. And as I figured, they have nothing. Is this target opponent? Oh, I never knew. I actually just took... Oh my god. I'm so tired. Alright, so at this point, I'm kind of ahead of Delver. The other thing is, I get to resolve more spells than Delver because I play more lands. But again, Delver doesn't need to resolve that. It doesn't need that many lands to resolve a bunch of spells. The other thing is, I'm going to play Moldrifter here. again. The other thing is, remember, they started on one land, so I got to develop my mana while they didn't. I mean, I've curved out perfectly every turn, so. Alright, you have a daze now? They do not. Sweet. Pretty much have the game at this point, because now every land my opponent draws is literally just a dead draw. Yep. Alright. So, in this match, you definitely want the Nauseas, the Disfigure, the Stormbound Geist, and I like Dispels. I like being able to counter Gush and whatnot. So, Chainer's Edict is really not very good, so let's just take those out first, and we'll worry about other things later. Again, Ghostly Flicker is not at its best. Neither is Seagate Oracle, and neither is Chittering Rats. Unearth is actually somewhat good, because it can return Chittering Rats, but Deep Analysis could be better. Duress could be better. Not exactly sure. Like, the thing about Seagate Oracle is that it blocks Ninja the Deep Hours. Nausea is good, of course, because it kills Unflip Delver, it kills Spellstar Sprite, and it kills, other things. The other reason why this card's not good is because they are going to bring in these, so that just makes Chainer's Edict just leagues worse. I do like Duress, but I think I like Duress more on the play, where I'm trying to be more aggressive with my creatures. So I think on the draw, I'll leave in like Unearth and other things, and then on the play I'll bring in Duress, is what I'll do. This hand is not great, but I don't think it's worth mulliganing. Probably going to play Dismal Backwater turn 1 and then Island turn 2 to keep up Counterspell. At the very least, I can use Lonely Sandbar, I suppose. I guess I could play Lonely Sandbar turn 1 and not gain a life for some reason, but I'm not going to do that. Alright, opponent started off with an Island. They did mull to 6, so that is something to keep in mind. Ooh, Doomblade. Alright, sweet. Spellstar Sprite. I think I'd rather Doomblade that. I think I'm just going to Doomblade that instead, because once I get Stormbound Geist down, they can't do the trick of... that kind of sucks. They can't do the stupid trick of with Ninja the Deep Hours and whatnot. And if they had played a third land and had a Dispel, or if they had a Daze, it was going to be pretty bad for me. Unfortunately, they flipped the Delver. But they don't have a land. They do, however, Ponder, which is interesting. So I could counterspell the Ponder here and try to bank on them not having another land to try and resolve my Stormbound guys, and I kind of like that. I normally would not ever counter Ponder in that sense, but I kind of like doing it here to try and force the issue of getting my Stormbound guys down, because this Delver is going to beat me down if I don't draw something. Wow, he Dispelled. Okay. My opponent really must not have a very good hand if they decided to Dispel the Ponder. That is incredibly interesting. I'm very happy that I got Dispel out of the hand now. Like, in a counter fight where it didn't really matter. And they chose to shuffle. They did get a land. So that is something. Yeah, I think I'm going to play around Daze just to be safe. And then I can cycle Lonely Sandbar as well. And then I can, next turn, like, play Chittering Rats or a Chaomancer, get back Doomblade and whatnot. Another Ponder. Okay. Let's see what my opponent does. They chose to shuffle and played a fourth land. Alright. Is it interesting? Curse of Chains. Curse you. Alright. I'm going to cycle. They only have 2 lands left in hand, though. I mean, 2 lands. 2 cards left in hand. And they just skip through their attack, which is cool. That's awesome. We just drew another Stormbound Geist, which is also awesome. So again, we're just going to do this. And my opponent cannot daze it. And I'm going to return the untapped island because I want the untapped land next turn. I don't want my lands to come into play tapped right now. Not in the mood for that. So my opponent go attack. I didn't think so. So I should be at 16 right now, really, but I'm not. Such is life. Okay, let's just try playing Chittering Rats to see what happens. See if my opponent decides to counter it. And they deprive it. Okay. I could try killing the Delver with Agony Warp, but I don't want to. I kind of want to get better use out of my Agony Warp than that. I especially would rather kill a ninja with it, of all things, so... And they use Deprive. Ooh, that's a good one. So let's go ahead and play our Chaomancer first. And see how my opponent responds. Nothing. Alright, I'll return Counterspell. I think Counterspell is worth more than a... whatchamacallit? A Doomblade, since I have the Agony Warp. So my opponent could have Spellstar Sprite. Yep. I'm going to attempt to kill it in response. I'd rather save the Counterspell. Can you stop doing that? I almost cursed there. So we're just going to attempt to do that. If they have another Spellstar Sprite, I suppose... Okay. I'd rather them use Spellstar Sprite on these spells that don't really matter than on spells that do. Ugh, they just drew Gush. What a top deck. Now, them's the breaks. Moldrifter or Ghostly Flicker would be the bee's knees. What would have also been the bee's knees would have been Nausea, but I don't live in that world apparently. Yes, I already auto-yielded to it, didn't I? Piece of crap. And this game is quickly getting away from me. See, like, this is the point of me with Delver, is just... Delver is like the highest variance deck. It's just like, oh, you're doing by the laws of Magic and drawing a bunch of lands? Well, I don't have to do that. That's actually a pretty good card right now to draw, because it's Storm. So that's interesting. Another Delver, alright. See, I don't have to really care about Delvers because I have the Stormbound Geist, which is good. I don't really have to give a crap. Oh, there's Moldrifter. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and play it. My opponent can only counterspell it. Sweet. So they have a Dispel and clearly 2 cards in their hand that aren't counterspells. So now we just play the long waiting game. Do they flip? They do not. Sweet. Opponent could have, like, Dispel, Ninja, something in their hand. Not exactly sure of what. Alright. I think here I just sit. I don't think there's a point in attacking right now. Because I could attack and force the issue with the Moldrifter, but I think it's better if I just play defense, because with this Reaping the Graves, I should have longevity. Alright, so we're matched on counter magic now. But I have Reaping the Graves, which puts me far ahead, I assume. Paper Snag on my Stormbound Geist. Do I really give a crap? I don't think I do. No, I definitely don't. I would be very happy to trade a Moldrifter. Oh, right. Okay. I have no problem with fighting a counter war here. Yeah, I think I'd rather use Dispel and Counterspell rather than Counterspell and Dispel. And now I could attack. I'm going to attack for 3 and see what my opponent does. Let's see if they can read the Reaping the Graves. Looks like they didn't. Cool. So we go ahead and return these 2 guys. What a broken mechanic Storm is, huh? And I have a counterspell in my hand. Plus I can play Archaeomancer and get back... you know, and he can't even attack for profit because then I just kill his Delver. This is actually pretty good. It's like I thought, like, I don't think Delver is actually a very bad matchup for this deck. I think Delver is a better deck overall. But I think against, in my match in the Community Pauper Challenge, I think I just got incredibly unlucky. Ah, come on, man. That's not fair. Alright, whatever. Not gonna fight over that. The question is, what do I get back with Archaeomancer? Do I get back another counterspell, or do I get back Reaping the Graves? I think I get back Reaping the Graves. I think Reaping the Graves is just better overall. And I think I attack with Muldrifter. I'd much rather have Muldrifter in the grave right now. And I can just chip away and get in for 2 every turn. I'll be honest, the reason I attacked with Archaeomancer there before was because I thought of maybe Archaeomancering back something that wasn't Reaping the Graves, and then in this... It just so happens that in this board state right now, getting back the Reaping the Graves just happens to be the best option. So that was why I attacked with the Archaeomancer before. I know it seemed kind of stupid, but that was what was going through my head at the time, to get back like Doomblade or Agony Warp or something. There we go. That was one of the cards I was waiting for. And now, I'm pretty sure I just win the game. I'm just going to attack here with those 2. I'm not going to bother trading Archaeomancer for a Spellstar Sprite. I don't see the point. I am sorry for the Steam. There is nothing I can do. You will accept it. Look at it this way, in the summer you'll have to listen to my air conditioner instead. Do you block Muldrifter now? No? Okay. One's got 2 cards. Cursive Chains. Alright. That's fine. I mean, there's just... If I draw Ghostly Flicker, I can get rid of it. There's just no point in dealing with it. I'd rather save the counterspell for, like, a Resolve Muldrifter or something. I really would rather not draw so many lands. But such is the way of life, I suppose. Yep. Opponent's gonna take 2. I'm gonna pass. I guess I have to auto-yield to both of them now, don't I? Another Delver, sure. I believe that's all 4 Delvers, yep. Okay. Seagate Oracale. Okay. Let's see what Seagate Oracle finds for me. Ghostly Flicker, I hope? Nope. Just finds the nuts. Instead it finds the nuts. Yep. Attack for 1. I should attack for 0 to send a message, but there's no point. And that should actually be the game. Alright, just give me 1 sec. Okay, so we just played 2 matches against the, in my opinion, the 2 best decks in Pauper. At least in my opinion right now. I mean, I think Delver's always one of the best decks, and I think that Kuldotha Boros arguably is the best deck. So what happened in the Kuldotha Boros match? I think game 1 I just got crapped on. Game 2, I think my opponent got really unlucky. They never really drew any of their like creature-based cards until later in the game when I had already established control, because they just didn't draw anything to put pressure on me. And then game 3, my opponent and I were going back and forth, and I was in a really good position. And then they conceded because they Galvanic Blasted without Metalcraft and whatnot. And then here against Delver, game 1, my opponent started off on the 1-land plan, and then I just curved out beautifully, as where my opponent, their spells were not as impactful. They never had a daze. They never really had a chance to cast Counterspell until the game was over. And then game 2, we just got to a top deck war, and I just, I drew removal, and that was it. I just had a better long game plan with Reaping the Graves. This card just, shows its worth sometimes, man. So, what's my verdict on this deck? I gotta tell you right now, I'm 50-50. I've had some really good times with this deck, and I have gotten really crapped on with this deck. And the thing about Blue-Black Flicker is it seems like I have to get luckier than I do with most decks. It seems like I have to get luckier than when I'm playing Affinity or Delver or even... Well, no, not Angler Delver. I think this deck's much better than Angler Delver. I think if you're an Angler Delver fan, I think this deck is actually just better, but... if I look at some of the decks, I think that I have to get luckier with this deck than I have to do with, like, Kuldotha Boros and regular teachings and, and whatnot. So, I think this deck definitely rewards skill, which is probably why I don't win with it very often. I think that this deck, if you become very good with it, with a little bit of extra luck, you can easily 5-0 some leagues. I think that this is a deck that's not going to 5-0 leagues consistently. I think that this deck is going to break even, if not just, net you a little extra revenue. But, I mean, listen, if you like blue-black decks, if you love Drake and you like, Angler Delver, would I tell you to play this deck? Sure, I would definitely tell you to try this deck out. But I can't promise you that you'll get a lot of wins with it. I can't promise you that it's going to be one of the best decks. If you weren't going to play this deck, what deck would I recommend you if you like this style deck? I'd recommend you Delver. I mean, I think Delver just does what this deck does better and smoother and cleaner and more consistently. Is my list perfect? Hell no. My list is nowhere near perfect. But I will be revisiting this deck in the future. I hope that Wizards prints some commons and, the future sets that help this deck out. Because I gotta tell you, I love this combo. I always have. I know it's a stupid combo. I know it's boring, but I like it. And that's it. So my verdict is I'm 50-50 on the deck. I can't recommend it, and I can't not recommend it. My only recommendation is try it out. See if you like it. If you don't, you don't. And if you do, you do. That's about it. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys check out the CPC. The Twitch channel is twitch.tv/community-pauper challenge. It's got a lot of cool people in. It's got some PCT grinders. It's got some pauper streamers in it, and it's got some, and it's also got a couple of league grinders as well. This is not the only season. This is not just a one-time event. This is the first season. Next season, I'm going to be adding some more people. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I'd love to see you guys out there. I hope I do. And always remember to visit PureMTGO.com, because PureMTGO.com is awesome. They have tons of articles from tons of different authors that are much better than me. Hope you check it out. I'd like to thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.